Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. We're going to be talking more about making yourself successful today, but if you're successful, everything else comes from it. We're also talking more to women, but for you men, y'all have women in your life. You've got mothers, sisters, daughters. So pay attention to this because it's very important. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Dravon James to our program today. Welcome, Dr. James. How are you doing?
Well, thank you for having me. And I'm doing absolutely fabulous now that we're together.
I love it. I love it. And for you all who are just listening, this is a vision in red. Oh my gosh, Dravon is absolutely gorgeous today. So, we just have to have that, right? So let me jump in and tell just a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this because we're going to have a great discussion. So Dr. Dravon James is the founder of the Next Step Leadership Academy, a company that empowers women to use everything that shows up in their lives, good, bad, or otherwise, to reach their next level of greatness. Dr. Dravon is a transformation specialist using her everyday peace philosophy to coach women on how to master goal attainment. She is the author of Freedom is Your Birthright. She is the host of Dr. Dravon James' Everyday Peace on Unity Online Radio. She is also coach on the SiriusXM Road Dog Trucking Show. And she is an actress whose career credits include a recurring role on HBO's acclaimed The Wire. When do you sleep? So as a leader in the healthcare industry for more than 3 decades, she is the recipient of the Secretary McDonough Coin of Recognition for her leadership efforts to combat the COVID pandemic. Dr. Dravon uses this training and experience to lead women to their victory using the power of everyday peace to achieve their next level of greatness in life and business. Holy schmoly. Well, I love this. It's just absolutely fantastic. I always like to ask my guests how it is that you got to where you are today. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I love that question. How did you get from where you were to where you are today? That is, I guess, the question for the ages. And I like to say that my journey began with somebody believing in me, and that was my mom, right? She believed in me and pushed me even when I didn't want to do what I need to do to become the woman that I am today. So I owe a lot to that. But I would think that I opened up to embracing what I now call everyday peace. I had no name for it back then, but through a little book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. That book was given to me by my brother. After it was a couple weeks before I left for college in the summer after I graduated from high school. And that tiny little book ignited something huge in me. It's like Pandora's box or something opened up inside of me. I read that tiny book, oh my gosh, maybe over 20 times in that summer. Just it soothed something in me and excited something in me all in one at one time. And initially when I read the book, you're going to laugh at this. What I thought, again, this is an 18-year-old girl reading this book. And what I thought was I had discovered the answer to never having a problem again in my life.
Ooh.
Well, I want to tell you, and you and your listening and viewing audience, I have not discovered the answer to never having a problem in your life. But I did discover, however, through years of reading, and that book opened me up to it, was how to use everything that showed up in my life as a stepping stone to get to my next level of greatness. And that's what I teach to people. That's what I use as my philosophy in life, my personal and business life, how to use everything that shows up in my life, the wanted and the unwanted. Because I used to say the good and the bad, but it's really just the wanted and the unwanted, because who knows what's good, who knows what's bad? We don't know. But we know some things we don't want to show up in our life, and well, there they go, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
so the great gift that I was given from reading that book was the discovery of how to use
Mhm.
everything for my good.
Right. And I love that philosophy because it is about the good, the bad, the ugly, the wanted, the not wanted. Because for one thing, if we got everything we wanted, how boring would that be, right? And more importantly, we often learn more from the bad things. And so, taking all of that is what is so important on going forward.
You're so right. We discount those challenges, but
Mhm.
those challenges really frame who we are.
Mhm.
That's where all the learning happens in the valley. The celebration
Mhm.
happens on the hilltop or the
Mhm.
rooftop, right?
Mhm.
But all that learning
Right.
happens in the valley. That's when you really show up and you say, "Oh my goodness,
Mhm.
this will not defeat me."
Mhm.
Right? Or I will learn to do things differently as a
Mhm.
result of this. All
Mhm.
that learning happens then, and it helps to shape who we will become in the future. So
Right.
magic stuff happens in the challenges. So I wouldn't trade any of my challenges.
Mhm.
Um, of course, now I like to say I've learned enough, but goodness knows I have not. There will be more challenges
Mhm.
coming, but that's okay because the great thing about that too is that I like to, and I teach clients
Mhm.
to, when you face something that's challenging, go
Mhm.
back and say to yourself, at least this is me. When something bad happens that I don't want to happen, my brain is wired in such a way because, oh well, all these bad things keep on happening. And then what I jump in there with my intelligence
Mhm.
and say, and I keep defeating every last one of them, right?
Mhm.
And so I remind myself that I am a victor, that I
Mhm.
overcame that, I
Right.
overcame that, I
Mhm.
thrived through that. And I encourage my clients to do the same
Mhm.
thing. Make sure you sit back and say, when something new happens, people say, oh, it's always something. I said, yeah, you just keep
Mhm.
winning and winning and winning.
Right.
Every time they throw something else in the mix, you overcome it. You
Mhm.
thrive through it. So it's encouraging to have challenges because we do learn. We become our
Right.
better self.
Right. And I think it is challenging for women in business. And many of us have learned that the way we get ahead is we just start our own companies, right? But I loved reading your book, which again is called Freedom is Your Birthright. And it's part of a series. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But you talk in it about how you had this job that everybody thought was great for you, and you were like, not so much. So, I love that because I think that's what so many of us and men too, we go through this where we do what other people expect of us. And it's not really the best thing. And that was kind of what started all of this. So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so yeah, um, I'll just speak to that story that you just told there too. So I was on that job, and I happened
Mhm.
to do. I was a young kid. I just
Mhm.
graduated from pharmacy school and
Mhm.
got a great job,
Mhm.
and you know, and took a Myers-Briggs test. I had no idea what Myers-Briggs
Mhm.
was. I thought it was like one of those party favors. It was just like,
Right. Mhm. Mhm.
and as I said in the book, I thought I won something when they asked to speak to me
Mhm.
afterwards. I said, "Oh, I must have won a
Yeah.
prize."
Woohoo. Mhm. Mhm.
And really, I did win a prize. I didn't realize it at the time, but the
Mhm.
person said to me, she said, I've never seen someone score so in such a way for the job that they have. She
Mhm.
said, this is not a good mix for you. And
Oh.
I didn't want anybody to know that
Mhm.
I didn't like the
Right.
job. But it helped me to really face myself and
Mhm.
say that I'm worthy
Mhm.
of happiness. And here's the thing about happiness or using your skill set in the way that fulfills you. You'll start to give from an authentically fulfilled
Mhm.
space.
Mhm.
And what you give is more fulfilling to other people because
Right.
you're giving from a great place inside of
Mhm.
yourself. So the overflow of that, I always
Mhm.
say, I like to look at it as like honey. Remember Winnie the Pooh? He would put his hand in that
Mhm.
honey pot
Mhm.
jar. I hope I'm not dating myself. But anyway, and the honey would spill over the
Mhm.
side of the jar, all that goodness.
Mhm.
And that's what happens when you live in your fulfilled
Right.
space, in the space that you
Mhm.
feel most fulfilled, right?
Mhm.
And you
Right.
have to have self-awareness to do this,
Mhm.
by the way. You really have to have
Mhm.
self-awareness. You really have to be checking in with yourself
Mhm.
and saying, does this resonate with me?
Mhm.
Is this work fulfilling for me?
Mhm.
Right. And when you get to that place, that goodness oozes out the side of that
Mhm.
honey pot, gets on other people, and it causes them, it has to go out and do
Mhm.
their best.
Right.
find their niche.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just for you, it's not selfish, but really living in this
Mm-hmm.
space where you get to really understand that not only are you worthy of being in the place that best
Mm-hmm.
suits you, your personality, your
Mm-hmm.
desires, and your goals, but it is the most giving thing that you can do for
Mm-hmm.
other people.
Right.
And sometimes I look at it like this: if you're in a spot that you really don't want to be, you could be good at that position, but you
Mm-hmm.
really don't want
Right.
to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You're holding up a position, taking somebody
Right.
else's spot who
Mm-hmm.
really wants
Mm-hmm.
to be in
Right.
that
Right.
spot
Mm-hmm.
while your seat is cold. No
Mm-hmm.
one's there, it's vacant.
Mm-hmm.
So having that courage to set a plan to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, I know this isn't for me,
Mm-hmm.
and discover what is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Self-awareness plays a big part in all this, really, really getting to
Right.
know thyself and spending some time with
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness and
Mm-hmm.
just the study of you.
Right. Yeah, and I've talked about this with other guests, and if I find it so fascinating because I think especially as women, we have the little voices in our head, and those little voices are usually not nice little voices in many cases, right? Now they might be trying to protect us, no, oh, don't do that because it's not going to go well, and things like that. But those little voices came from other people, whether it was our teachers, our parents. I remember, now I'm a little older than you. And so when I started thinking about going to college, it was like, well, why? No, 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 that's not what. And I didn't, and I wanted to go to be an attorney. I mean, I wasn't going to go be, some of these other things that, and I still remember my counselor, my high school counselor told me, I don't understand why you even want to do this. And, and so then that little voice got stuck in my head. Well, she didn't believe in me. And so why should I believe in myself? And now the nice thing is I had a mother like yours that was like, shoo, go, you need to go do this. You're going to be fabulous at it. And so now, I did not become an attorney, but yeah, it's those voices, whether they were external or internal, they set the groundwork when we're so young. And as you said, we have to be aware of that. Where are those voices coming from and are they real?
Right. And a lot of times they're well-meaning people, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They
Right.
are they are seeing us in their world,
Mm-hmm,
right? So
mm-hmm,
their fears, their past
mm-hmm,
experiences,
mm-hmm.
they're putting those on us.
Right. They
And
don't
we
want
do it
us
to
to be
other
hurt
people too.
like they were.
Right.
Mm-hmm,
And they want the best for us.
mm-hmm,
And so that is great. We could,
mm-hmm,
would that would be the case that every person that we met would want
mm-hmm.
the best for us.
Right.
They won't know what's best for
Mm-hmm,
us. And then we go back to
mm-hmm,
self-awareness. No one knows you better than you, or no
mm-hmm,
one should
mm-hmm,
know you better than you.
mm-hmm,
You have to spend that time. Take that information that
mm-hmm,
tells you something about the person that's
mm-hmm.
giving the information,
Right.
right? It gives you
Mm-hmm,
some insight into them. And then you got to run it through your own brain and say, well,
mm-hmm,
how do I feel about
mm-hmm,
that? Where does that land
mm-hmm.
on me? So often
Right.
as women, at least when I was coming up, I was
Mm-hmm,
always taught, well, you've got to think like a man and get rid of
mm-hmm.
that feminine,
Right.
its weakness. But what I have learned
Mm-hmm,
is that encased in everybody is some jewels that belong to them that will
mm-hmm.
aid them on their journey.
Right.
One of those things that happen to be in a lot of women is this sense of intuition, this
Mm-hmm,
gut feeling,
mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
That science can't
Mm-hmm,
say, what it is, but we
mm-hmm,
know that it's there. And really, when we hear something, when someone says to you, well, you shouldn't go to law school, where does that land in your
mm-hmm.
gut? How does that
Right.
feel? And once you get that feeling like, well, something we'll get it. It's like a
Mm-hmm,
fleeting, well, yes, I can follow the yes, I
mm-hmm,
can,
mm-hmm,
right? Follow it shortly after that, it'll be the fear. Well, maybe they're right.
mm-hmm,
But no, no, no.
mm-hmm.
Listen to that gut feeling that says to you, keep going,
Right.
right? That's really where your jewel is. That's where the magic of you exists. It
Mm-hmm,
doesn't exist in that small fear-based
mm-hmm,
voice, right? That comes from external people telling you what their fears are,
mm-hmm,
right? Those are their fears,
mm-hmm,
right? They may mean well, but those
mm-hmm,
are their fears. So we have to really learn how to turn within. Self-awareness, I
mm-hmm,
cannot say that enough, is so very important. And
mm-hmm,
a lot of times we as women are so busy getting to know everything about our children, everything
mm-hmm,
about our
mm-hmm,
spouses, everything about, the principal at the kids' school, the
mm-hmm.
teacher. We know so much about everybody
Right.
else.
Mm-hmm,
We know very little about what it is
mm-hmm,
that we feel about
mm-hmm,
things. We have become a nation of big
Mhm.
thinkers, right? We got big brains and we
Mhm.
think a lot, and that's great. I'm grateful for that.
Mhm.
But there is that sense of intuition that exists within us. If
Mhm.
we sit and just, oops, we get that feeling,
Mhm.
pay attention to those. Pay
Right.
attention. And you'll hear people say, Dave Ramsey is a business guru. I
Mhm.
listen to him a
Mhm.
lot. And I remember him one time telling this story. He's made a lot of money on real estate. And he says that when he goes into the room to do the deals, he's
Mhm.
learned to always have his wife with him. He said,
Ah.
his wife, he does all
Mhm.
the head stuff, the math
Mhm.
and the money. And his wife will say, well, that feels good. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel good.
Mhm.
He said 2 times in his career, he went against his wife's gut feeling. She didn't, he said, there's no science behind it. She just
Mhm.
said, yeah, I don't like these. He said,
Yeah, there was
those are the
just
two
a
times.
feeling that she got.
Those are the 2 times he said he lost the most money on deals was when he went
I
against
hope
that
she
gut.
said, I
So I
told you
tell
so.
right. So I tell women all the time,
Mhm.
sure, do the
Mhm.
cognitive stuff.
Right.
Listen, people are giving you advice. We're
Mhm.
writing stuff down and we're thinking we all do
Mhm.
that. But always go back. Is
Mhm.
this for me?
Mhm.
Is this for me?
Right.
Get that feeling in your gut. Don't follow
Mhm.
that fear based of somebody telling you,
Mhm.
oh, honey, I wouldn't do that, or
Mhm.
women shouldn't do that, or
Mhm.
that's too hard. You listen to yourself
Mhm.
because 9 times out of 10, if you had the thought
Mhm.
to do it, and by thought, I mean that gut thought right there, if you
Right.
had the
Mhm.
then you have the talent to
Mhm.
do it. It may take some extra learning, some
Mhm.
extra financing, but you have the talent to get
Mhm.
that done.
Right. So what are some tools for self-awareness? Because there's lots of books, there's all sorts of, but what are some of the things that we can do to really know, okay, what's going on in my head and my heart?
And I love reading lots of books as my
Mhm.
favorite pastime, but I'll give you a simple trick is
Mhm.
to become curious about you.
Ah,
Question you.
okay.
Become you if you've ever been around that little kid that's following you around the house that says, but why?
Yeah.
But
Why?
why? But
Why?
why?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
everything that you're like, I
Mhm.
don't know why, right?
Mhm.
You become that person about you. When you see yourself getting excited about something, so that's interesting. I'm excited about that. Why am I
Yeah.
excited about that?
Okay.
What about that excites
Mhm.
me? And once you think you have an answer,
Mhm.
ask, oh, why do I feel that way about that?
Mhm.
And this is you paying
Mhm.
attention to you. You'll be amazed at how your inner self will
Mhm.
open up to you when you start to
Mhm.
pay attention. Because we're all in there.
Mhm.
That little girl part of us is all in there,
Right.
waiting for someone to make us
Mhm.
the subject, the object of their desire.
Mhm.
And that someone is us.
Right.
So just that simple trick of
Mhm.
becoming curious about what makes you
Mhm.
happy, what makes you sad, what makes you feel lonely, what sparks your ingenuity, all of those things.
Mhm.
Say, oh my goodness, I got on this particular
Mhm.
task and I lost track of time. Really? What was it about that
Mhm.
task that excited you?
Right.
Really? So
Mhm.
just drill down in that
Mhm.
why about
Mhm.
yourself and don't be discouraged when you don't have an answer.
Mhm.
Become patient.
Mhm.
Oh, that's interesting that I don't know why I feel that way. I have to come
Mhm.
back to that.
Mhm.
Always gently, because the more gentle we are with ourselves,
Mhm.
the more our inner self
Mhm.
will reveal itself to us.
Right. Right. And unfortunately, we're not gentle with ourselves, right? We do well, that was stupid. Why did you do that? Type of communication.
We walk past the mirror and the first, oh, I'm getting old. Oh,
Mhm.
this and that. We don't compliment ourselves. We
Mhm.
don't say, my goodness, you're doing a great job.
Mhm.
Even though you're fearful, I'm so proud of
Mhm.
you. Because we believe, we have been taught this, that we can criticize ourselves to success.
Right. And little
That,
girls do not brag about themselves.
oh, but and I gotta say, I'm in meetings with predominantly men all the time. They'll
Mhm.
brag about things they did not actually do.
I know. I know. Mhm.
Right? That they read. They'll take credit for it.
Mhm.
So we've got to learn how to be
Mhm.
our best marketer.
Mhm.
And even if
Right.
it's just in our own head,
Mhm.
don't play yourself
Mhm.
small. Give yourself credit. I think we're
Mhm.
afraid about, getting the big head. We
Mhm.
don't want to become too
Right.
egotistical. We
Mhm.
don't want to become that woman. Well, we don't have to go out and boast to everybody, but we
Mhm.
do it in our own head. We need to say, now
Mhm.
that was great. I'm proud of you.
Mhm.
Now that was astonishing. And we
Mhm.
need to smile when we do it,
Mhm.
to celebrate ourselves when we
Mhm.
do these things so that we are removing that
Mhm.
self-talk that
Mhm.
keeps us stuck in mediocrity.
Mhm.
You could do better. Well,
Right.
maybe I could, but this was great.
Mhm.
Right?
Right. Yeah. And
So
I
yeah,
think we don't celebrate, even if it's the little thing. Sometimes it's like, I got out of bed today, or, oh my gosh, I got down to 0 emails, or, and other people are like, yeah, right, whatever. But for you, it might be a big deal, or maybe it is just a little deal, but it's still a deal.
Yeah, that's so very important. Celebrate the small victories
Mhm,
because life is a series of small
mhm,
victories that we miss out on
mhm.
all of the
Right.
time. And then we have this thing that happens that makes us sad. And if we were celebrating
Mhm,
all along, we'd realize everything's in balance.
mhm,
But because we didn't pay attention to the small things that were
mhm,
going along great for us all day
mhm,
long, when this one thing goes wrong, we think, oh,
mhm,
the world's
mhm.
against me. But we
Right.
had 100 things that
Mhm,
went right for us. So really
mhm,
learn to celebrate those small things. And it
mhm,
doesn't take much. You don't have to
mhm,
go out and buy new shoes and buy a pocketbook and all
mhm,
that kind of stuff. It just takes an atta girl.
mhm.
Atta
Right.
girl.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. And I love the listen to your gut. Because I tell people, like, you've written the email, and the little voice in your head is going, don't send that, don't send that. Right. Or the Facebook post, or whatever it is. But it also, I was thinking about, am part of a fabulous business group, and was working on some things, and they came up with an idea for me, and they were really, really excited about it. This is going to be great. This is going to be fabulous. And I just was sitting there. I mean, it did not in any way get me excited. And, and my gut was saying, nah, nah. I mean, it was a great idea. It just wasn't anything I wanted to do. But I let
Mhm.
them talk me into it, because they're smart people, right? And so I should be doing that. And then, of course, it's as you said, it didn't work, because in my heart and in my head, I was going, you know, and so I wasted time, I wasted money, all sorts of things. And again, they meant well, but my first reaction was, nah, not so much.
Oh my goodness. I bought and sold 2 drugstores based on that same principle because
Hmm, hmm,
someone told me I could. They said you'd be great at it.
hmm,
And I was
hmm,
great at it.
hmm,
I guess I liked it. I did like helping
hmm,
people. That's
hmm,
always been my thing.
hmm,
But it it wasn't this. The
hmm.
everyday piece
Right.
was, and I didn't even have a name for it back then, but I
Hmm,
knew that that's really what I
hmm,
wanted to do. I wanted to help people to discover and fall in love with themselves
hmm,
and follow their dreams to
hmm,
the end of the earth.
hmm.
And back then in the 80s and 90s, people were like, well, you got a great head on your shoulders
Hmm.
for math and science, and that's
Right.
what you should be doing.
Hmm,
And I thought, well, I guess you're right.
hmm, hmm.
Right.
Right. And
And
we don't want to let
eventually,
people down.
right. You
Hmm,
don't want to let them
hmm,
down, but the most important person not to let down is
hmm,
yourself. And
hmm,
I tell people, I learned a lot from being
hmm,
on that end of the journey.
hmm,
But when I right-sided myself and said, you know what? I am going to follow my heart,
hmm.
and didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And but I knew if I helped one person, well,
Hmm,
that'd be good. I'd
hmm,
feel good about that. And
hmm,
then I helped another person, and then
hmm,
and then people started sending me notes. I said, this is really what I'm meant
hmm,
to do. And maybe it
hmm,
doesn't make sense to anybody else. Maybe it
hmm,
didn't come up on anybody's radar.
hmm,
But when I took that Myers-Briggs test when I was it sort of came up on the radar then. I didn't know
hmm.
what it was.
Right.
But when I just followed my gut and said,
Hmm,
I want to do this. And
hmm,
I'll tell you a quick story. I was actually doing consulting as a pharmacist, and I was
hmm,
speaking to providers and talking to them about different things in
hmm,
healthcare
hmm.
and drug care. And at the end of my talk, I got the courage to do what I call an everyday peace moment.
Ah.
That I would take a
Hmm,
moment, I'd say 3 to 5 minutes, and
hmm,
I talk about peace,
hmm,
some form of what I was
hmm,
talking about today, how to incorporate into their life,
hmm,
how to have a better life. And I got invited to do, as a result of that, I got
hmm,
invited to do a keynote speaking
hmm,
an event. And I normally went there and I talked about
hmm,
drug therapy
hmm,
or something. And they say, hey, when you come, we only want you to do that everyday peace thing that you do the last
hmm.
5 minutes. And that was the beginning, but I followed
I
my
love
gut.
it. Hmm,
I didn't know that group of people, they were
hmm,
all scientific
hmm,
and, doctors and
hmm,
nurses. And they said, when you come in, that's what we're paying
hmm,
you to do. We want you to talk about everyday
hmm,
peace, not anything about drug therapy. And
hmm,
I thought,
hmm,
but I would have never got there if
hmm,
I had listened to people say, you're really
hmm,
good at math and science, which I was.
hmm,
But my gut was saying, I really want to give from this part
hmm.
of me.
Right.
So
Right.
listen, listen,
Hmm,
listen.
hmm. So tell us more about everyday peace, because I love this concept.
Yeah. So first, I have to tell you that peace, the definition that we use is not, I wish it was woosah, sit in the corner somewhere and let all good things happen.
It's
I would love for that to be, right? I
right.
would love that. I got to tell you, I would
Mhm,
love that,
mhm,
Nirvana. But it is wholeness, completeness,
mhm,
nothing missing, nothing
mhm,
broken, totality. That
mhm,
is our definition.
mhm,
And so I hope that you can hear in that,
mhm,
that life happens.
mhm,
Right? Everything that happens, if you think of your life as a puzzle piece, and
mhm,
so if something happens that's unwanted, a flat
mhm,
tire on the highway, it's
mhm,
I definitely don't wish that on you, but it could happen. That's
mhm.
part of your wholeness.
Right.
And know that that thing has not come to destroy you.
Mhm,
Right? It hasn't come to destroy. As we said earlier, that's part of your journey.
mhm,
What you're going to get out of that,
mhm.
you're going to be stronger. True story. I was driving to work one day. My driver's side door fell off on the highway. Just
Oh.
fell off. Now it was 4 o'clock in the morning
Mhm,
and the highway was practically empty, thank
mhm.
goodness.
Right.
But who would think that would be a good thing? Definitely not a
Mhm,
good thing. But it let me see the goodness in people,
mhm,
right? It let me, I got myself together.
mhm,
I'm scared. Someone stopped and helped me.
mhm,
And it helped framework for me that, hey, this life is not as
mhm,
scary. People are
mhm,
good people.
mhm,
I'm here today because somebody rescued me and
mhm,
helped me. So that was part of my journey to really
mhm,
um, in, increase my faith
mhm,
in humankind, right?
mhm.
Things happen,
Right.
wholeness, completeness.
Mhm,
Do not look at your life as this has come to destroy me.
mhm,
Einstein said we have two choices. We
mhm,
have to believe that this world is
mhm.
against us or this world is for
Right.
us.
Mhm,
This world is for you.
mhm,
But we have a choice. We have to
mhm,
perceive it that way. And
mhm,
that's what we teach in Everyday Peace,
mhm,
how to work with our life
mhm,
circumstances to transform our life into
mhm.
what we want it to look like, how to
Right.
become the happiest person you know
Mhm,
with the circumstances you
mhm.
currently have. Because this is
Right.
what you got, this is
Mhm,
your life.
mhm,
And we have choices right
mhm.
here.
Right. And I love the choices, because it is the choice. We can, with whatever it is that's going on. And I had shared before the program started that I was diagnosed 8 years ago with stage 4 metastatic triple positive. Let's see how many words we can get in there. Breast cancer. And my first chemo treatment darn near killed me. I went into septic shock. And the doctors were actually arguing about how fast that day I was going to die. And I remember thinking, excuse me, this is my choice. And it was, and there was no lights, or I mean, it was just, I just remember thinking you know,
Right.
and
Right. Good luck.
yeah,
Right.
and 3 times, I was in the hospital for 7 weeks. I was in and out of ICU, all sorts of stuff. And 3 times my husband was told, no, this is not good. And my choice was, no, the end is not now. Um, and I've have kept going, all along, and developed basal cell carcinoma, which is, as you know, very easy to treat. Didn't even have a stitch, they just and it was gone. um and then I developed thyroid cancer, and it was so funny because my doctor called, and when doctors call, that's not good, right?
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah, otherwise it would go in my online chart and all that. But no, she
Right.
called, and I love my doctors. And she tells me, yeah, it's papillary thyroid cancer. And I said really bad words that I can't say here. But it was one of the, and she laughs. And she says, that's why you're going to get through this. Because it was just
Happy.
like, and people were like, oh my, and bless them, they were like, oh my, oh, we feel for you. I'm like, oh please, this is annoying. Now, I was very fortunate that we caught it very, very early, and so it wasn't really a big deal. But it was like, well, this is annoying. you know and I just went merrily along. And so many people say, you know that I have such a positive outlook on life, and I'm not always like that. It's like you said. I mean, there are times where I'm like, I'm not getting out of bed today. Nope, nope. I'm not a happy camper. And all sorts of things. But it is about how can you be happy in the situation. And I just choose that. It's like, yeah, am I,
Yeah.
I've had, you're gonna love this, 33 surgeries. I could really be grumpy and cranky about that. And it's like, well, you know what? 33 surgeries kept me alive. And
Yeah, I told you when I came on,
mhm,
we talked
mhm,
before the show, your energy just excites me because it is our perception,
mhm,
right? And we're
mhm.
all human, right?
Right.
Things happen, like you said,
Oh
some
yeah.
choice words.
I get
We give
mad, I
ourselves
cry.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah. We give ourselves space
Mhm.
to feel what we're feeling.
Right.
Of
Mhm.
course, I,
Mhm.
I I've tried the put your head in the sand like an ostrich and pretend like it's
Mhm.
not happening. Trust me, that doesn't
Yep.
work. So you
Yeah.
have to acknowledge that this
Mhm.
is happening. I tell people if
Mhm.
you want to paint your walls blue, you must first recognize and say they are yellow, right?
Mhm.
So feel what
Right.
you're feeling.
Mhm.
Say, this is what I'm
Mhm.
feeling, but this is what I
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
This is what I know. That it'll be up to me. I love it. You
Mhm.
said, please, I'm not, this is not going to take me out of here. I've
Mhm.
not decided that, right? We have to make that decision within
Mhm.
ourselves and then stand on that and say, you know what? I'm going to learn from this.
Mhm.
I'm going to learn from that. After 27 years of marriage, I got a divorce and I
Oh
was,
my.
I was
Mhm.
the, I was more shocked than anybody. I couldn't believe it. And so
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
through my tears, and you can only
Mhm.
imagine, I'm bawling my eyes out. And I remember saying to myself, clear as day, that you will be able to help many women with this story.
Mhm.
You will be able to, and I
Yep.
thought, and I'm crying my eyes out. So
Mhm.
you're kidding? I can't help
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
But I knew that was I had practiced for so many
Mhm.
years what I teach in everyday peace
Mhm.
that I was able to feel the pain, feel the
Mhm.
desperation, feel the loneliness,
Mhm.
and still know
Mhm.
that I was going to use
Right.
everything that I was learning that day, and I
Mhm.
was going to be great, and I was going to be okay, and I was going to not only
Mhm.
survive but
Mhm.
thrive, and and still have all of the
Mhm.
emotions. And if we use that, I tell
Mhm.
people that our personal life,
Mhm.
when the things that we go through our personal life
Mhm.
that's our training ground. We take
Mhm.
those learnings, we take it into our business,
Mhm.
into our professions,
Mhm.
into our raising of children, and we
Mhm.
utilize all those skill sets
Mhm.
there because when you can overcome something like cancer and late life divorces and all
Mhm.
this kind of stuff, and someone stands up to you and says, I don't like your idea, sweetheart, that won't kill me.
Yeah. So have your own idea.
Have your own idea. I've been through enough. I've
Mhm.
learned enough. I am emotionally intelligent enough to know that everything is not for everybody.
Mhm.
And your no does not mean that I quit.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Right?
And it is about again, like you said, self-awareness. It's like what's good for me might not be good for you, and that's okay.
That's
Um,
okay.
and I
And
think the other thing is we need to remember, and there's no right or wrong. It's just what works for me works for me.
and learning to validate ourselves,
Mhm.
not waiting. We don't always need a
Mhm.
stamp and a seal of approval to
Mhm.
go forth with
Mhm.
our ideas.
Mhm.
All ideas are not for everyone.
Right.
You may be intermingling with, that's
Mhm.
not your tribe, and
Mhm.
they're not yet. I talk
Mhm.
to people many, I'm going to do this everyday peace thing, and in my other world, they're like, "You're what?"
Mhm.
That's
Well,
not
that
going to
sounds
work.
like a waste of time.
Yes,
Mhm.
you have a degree in this. And I thought, well, that's just absolutely fine. But what you
Mhm.
don't know is I've used these
Mhm.
philosophies when I trained
Right.
in this
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
scientific world. I
Mhm.
use these same philosophies.
Mhm.
I use these same philosophies to get
Right.
me from point A to point B,
Mhm.
and it works for people and resonates with
Mhm.
me. And some
Mhm.
people it may not resonate with,
Right.
and I'm okay with that because if
Mhm.
we can help one person,
Mhm.
well, isn't it worth it?
Right. Right. And I love that because I think so many times we as women, we as business leaders, all these things, we think we have to solve every problem for everyone. And that's never going to happen.
No, it's never going to happen. And the best thing you can do for anyone is to exist and operate from your authentic self,
Mhm.
right? When you do that, there's always somebody watching. My mother used to tell me that, and it's always so true. There's
Mhm.
always somebody watching. Like when you shared your story with me
Mhm.
before we got on the show, it resonated with me
Mhm.
that, here is strength. You can pull strength from
Mhm.
anywhere, right? And you can use it, you can apply it to anything, any
Mhm.
part of your life. So when you operate from your authentic self,
Mhm.
you're able to give to somebody
Mhm.
else, not looking for, not, there's a study that I read, and I don't have the numbers at the top of my head right now, that
Mhm.
said women constantly will hold themselves back. Whereas they'll want to go forth for a particular job or promotion, and they'll read all the criteria and they'll say, oh, there is 3 things you need. I only have one of those, so I'm not going to go forth. And um, the study said that there are men who will read that same job
Oh,
description. So,
they
oh,
won't
there's
have
3
done any of
criteria.
it. They're like,
I have
yeah.
0 of them. I think I'm qualified, right? And
Right.
I love that. It's what they call that chutzpah. I love that because here they are saying, I believe in me. I believe in me, right? And it is that type of belief, right? With some hard work, of course, right? But it has to start with you believing first. And so we as women have got to realize that look at all that we do. Start believing in ourselves, start validating ourselves, moving forward, but stop waiting for all the stars and the moon to align for it to just be that perfect spot for us to move. Move when something resonates with us, when we have that feeling, it says, I think I'll try that. I think that feels good. Don't keep letting those opportunities slip away. And I'm not a person who believes that, oh, it'll never come back around. Sure, it will. It will come back
If
around,
it's
but
the
why
right
not do it today?
opportunity, it will come back.
Right. But why not do it today? Why not? What do
Right.
you have to lose? We spend so much of our time thinking about who's going to feel what kind of way about us if we do this, if we say this, if we step out and do this, if we take our business in this direction, if we don't quit when they tell us that we should quit, or if we start when they tell us it's the wrong time to start, instead of letting us, the you inside of you, say, nope, this is what I think. I've done
Right.
the research and I'm sitting back. I'm aware of what I'm feeling and I'm going to move forward, or I'm going to hold steady, but
Right.
just really relying upon ourselves to make that decision.
Right. And again, it may work out, it might not work out. Okay, then we learn from that. But if we'd never done it, then how are we going to know? There a lot of times I will tell people, you need to ask so and so to, this, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do. I'm like, the least they're going to do is tell you no. I mean, but they cannot tell you yes unless you ask.
I used to sell a popular cosmetic
Ah,
brand. I earned 2 free cars.
Ooh,
And we used to have this game we play as part of the sales force is to get 50 no's a day. You can't get 50 no's a day. Somebody's going to mess up your streak and say yes, right? But in that getting of the yes, you move towards your goal.
Right.
And so when you set that out and you don't get afraid of the word no, it's 2 tiny letters. We've
Right.
often used them ourselves for the betterment of somebody, right? And so it's okay to hear the word no. And I got so good at it, I would ask why after the no because I'm curious. It's
Right.
oh, really? That surprises me.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Because
Right.
then the next time it's a little bit different. You've learned from that.
Right. And then I learned from that. Then I learned, okay, what I could do differently. Oh, I learned how I could, whatever. I see there's a need. I didn't speak to that need. So
Right.
not being afraid of no, just try to get 50 of them, whatever line of business that you're in. Try to get 50 of those no's and realize that in a day you can't get 50 no's. Someone's going to say
Right.
yes and mess up that streak. You're like, doggone it, I'll have to try for it again
Shoot.
tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. And then it might really get screwed up and you get 50 yeses.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? But to your point, you'll never get to a yes if you're overthinking, overanalyzing, and over-fearing the no,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You'll just never get there. You'll never get there. And we never know everything that's going on in someone else's life. Give them an opportunity to say no. Believe in what you're doing, what you're offering, and give them an opportunity to say no. Give them
Right.
that. They deserve that.
Right. And like we said, they might actually say yes.
Right.
Right.
And wouldn't
Right.
that be great?
I want to talk about the word no in a different way. And the fact that no is a sentence all by itself, right? When somebody asks us, we would like you to do whatever, and we don't want to do it. A lot of times we do no, but and I think that's where we lose our power. We lose, we're not authentic because when we're telling them, well, we'll do it this way, it's perfectly fine to say no and just let it go at that.
It is perfectly fine. My sister, who has her master's in social work, taught me this, and And so it's quite the opposite of what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to say yes to everything,
Right.
always
Mm-hmm.
say yes, find a way
Mm-hmm.
to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister, and that can be very, very stressful,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're a busy mom and you're
Mm-hmm.
working and
Oh,
you're
right.
saying yes to
Mm-hmm.
everything, right? And you're running your own business because I
Mm-hmm.
was doing that at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister would say, always say no first.
Mm-hmm.
She said, and then that will give you an opportunity to turn a no into a yes if
Right.
you find that you can do
Mm-hmm.
it. She said, but your day is
Mm-hmm.
full. She said, oh, no, I don't think I could fit
Mm-hmm.
that in. Or
Mm-hmm.
I'm not able to do that at this
Mm-hmm.
time. She said, and leave it there. She said, then you
Mm-hmm.
go back and say, and so you would get
Mm-hmm.
comfortable saying no,
Mm-hmm.
right? You would get comfortable
Mm-hmm.
saying no.
Right.
And then I go back
Mm-hmm.
and I look at my schedule and I call, you know what? I really thought
Mm-hmm.
that I can actually do it. And they're so
Mm-hmm.
excited.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here's the difference. If you always say yes first, you
Mm-hmm.
go home and your head is so heavy, you're
Mm-hmm.
so stressed out, you don't know how you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do it. And then you're fretting for the rest of
Mm-hmm.
the week, trying to figure out how
Mm-hmm.
you can call them to say, no, you
Mm-hmm.
can't do it. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
let them down.
Right.
So I found by using that simple trick
Mm-hmm.
that she taught me,
Mm-hmm.
it changed my whole
Mm-hmm.
level of stress.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, oh, yeah, that's very interesting, but
Mm-hmm.
no, I can't do that at this
Mm-hmm.
time. Right. And then I go back. If
Mm-hmm.
things changed,
Mm-hmm.
I'd call and say, "Oh, you know what? My schedule cleared
Mm-hmm.
up. I can do it." And they'd
Right.
be so happy.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't stressful for me to
Mm-hmm.
do that. But to do the
Mm-hmm.
other way, to call and
Mm-hmm.
say,
Right.
"Oh, my schedule changed after
Mm-hmm.
I committed and I can't do it,"
Mm-hmm. Right. Because
I
then
would
you
be
are
so
letting
afraid.
them down. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'd be
Right.
afraid of the
Mm-hmm.
inconvenience in their life, and I'd be afraid of my
Mm-hmm.
reputation and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So I give that to really busy,
Mm-hmm.
busy people.
Mm-hmm.
Careful with your time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Careful with your time because if you're saying yes to things that you cannot do,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe you're not showing up in your
Mm-hmm.
best anyway because
Mm-hmm.
you're
Right.
overly tired
Mm-hmm.
and you're not there. So you're not giving the
Mm-hmm.
impression that you want to give for you and your
Mm-hmm.
business or your
Mm-hmm.
organization. So really careful with your time.
Mm-hmm.
Make it a prized
Mm-hmm.
possession. Really
Right.
make it a prized
Yeah.
possession. Don't put it on
Mm-hmm.
sale. Make it really a
Mm-hmm.
prized possession that when you do give it away, well, you give it the top of yourself
Mm-hmm.
away. And people are like,
Mm-hmm.
what? I'd love to have her back if you
Mm-hmm.
can get her.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh yeah. And it is it's about prioritizing and all of those things. I talk with a lot of people who are brand new in business. They're very excited. They just started their company. And one of the things I tell them is boundaries. You need to set boundaries. And I started my company over 20 years ago. And one of the things that I discovered was people thought, A, you work 24/7. B, you weren't working, because you're at home. This was 20 some years ago. And so I can call and bother you, or you can go do the laundry or whatever, all of those various things, because, and so I tell people, have those boundaries. And so I explain to my clients, I work between this time and this time. I am more than happy to work evenings, weekends, holidays, but it will cost you double. And they almost always go, okay, it can wait. And part of that is just respecting and honoring ourselves and knowing, yeah, I might actually be up checking email at midnight. I don't sleep well. And so, but I don't send my response then, because if I send it at midnight, then they're going to expect me to respond next time at midnight. So set those boundaries. And I think it really comes back to, you have to honor yourself, because if you don't honor yourself, nobody else will.
Absolutely. And when you're overly available to that point,
Mm-hmm.
right, it cheapens your service,
Mm-hmm.
right? It
Right.
makes it,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's always available. And we
Mm-hmm.
know that
Mm-hmm.
we're prone to
Mm-hmm.
value things that are rare, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you have set
Mm-hmm.
hours, if you
Mm-hmm.
want to, I don't know, even if you want to go to the mall's
Mm-hmm.
not open 24 hours a day, seven
Mm-hmm.
days a week, but there
Right.
are some discount stores that
Mm-hmm.
are, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that if you're really valuing yourself in
Mm-hmm.
your business that you're having, you're
Mm-hmm.
setting those priorities and those
Mm-hmm.
boundaries around what you
Mm-hmm.
do, right? You're pricing your
Mm-hmm.
services for the value
Mm-hmm.
that you're giving,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not operating out of desperation.
Mm-hmm.
That's so very
Right.
important,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the things I talk about a lot
Mm-hmm.
is that your energy, making sure that you're
Mm-hmm.
feeding yourself and well, literally feeding
Mm-hmm.
yourself, but also,
Mm-hmm.
feeding your mind and getting your rest so that you show up in the
Right.
space of
Mm-hmm.
no matter what's going on with how
Mm-hmm.
many clients you have or
Mm-hmm.
don't have, that you show up in a space of being empowered,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
That this is a valued
Mhm.
service, whether you have one customer
Mhm.
or 2 million customers.
Mhm.
The service that you're providing is valuable,
Mhm.
and you don't have that desperation
Mhm.
energy on you, because
Right.
people can sense that, and it devalues the
Ooh,
service that you're
and
providing.
they'll take advantage of it, right? The
Mhm.
second you know that something, that someone is desperate, you can offer them less, you can make them do more. I mean, all sorts of things.
Yeah, yeah, right. So you don't want that,
Mhm.
because people do really want to be associated with
Mhm.
high value things,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
That's how you get, and not that you don't want you want your prices to be above what
Mhm.
they should be, but high value service,
Mhm.
when the owner feels as though,
Mhm.
or the operator has this air that I am here to do good,
Mhm.
and it's going to be an exchange, right? An equal
Mhm.
exchange, because
Mhm.
that shows value for
Mhm.
yourself, that you have
Right. Mhm.
self-worth, self-esteem.
Mhm.
They really appreciate it.
Mhm.
They feel like they've gotten something great.
Mhm. Right. And they have, that's the other. Remember, it is something great, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely, and
Mhm.
you make it even better when you have
Mhm.
remove that
Mhm.
desperation energy.
Mhm.
I know when I started my business, when I operated pharmacies,
Mhm.
there were times when, the money was tight and all of those
Mhm.
things, but you still show up
Mhm.
shiny and
Mhm.
confident, and
Yep.
loving what you do, and
Mhm.
things do change and
Mhm.
turn around. And it was way back when I was so young, but I would work another job on the
Mhm.
weekends so
Mhm.
that I could,
Right.
pay my
Mhm.
bills and that nature and everything of
Mhm.
that nature. But still, when I got to my
Mhm.
business during the week, my energy was that I
Mhm.
was there to provide
Right.
a fair and equitable
Mhm.
exchange
Mhm.
for my services. So be that
Right.
person, stand in that
Mhm.
confidence.
Right. And I love on your website, there's this fabulous photo of you, and then it says, become the happiest person you know. And one of the things that you talk a lot about is gratitude. And I think we forget that we need to be grateful for things. So talk to us more about gratitude.
So I love gratitude, especially I say this for people who are in a space where they're hurting and struggling right now.
Hmm.
One of the best ways out of that
Hmm.
is to look for things to be grateful for.
Hmm.
So I'm going to tell you my gratitude practice right now before I forget, because it's on my mind. Is that for years now, for years, my oldest daughter, my child is 23 years old. So
Hmm.
maybe 23 years ago, I started doing what I call an active gratitude practice.
Hmm.
And it looks like this. When I wake up in the morning, I wake up every day at 4:15 in the morning, and I grab out of my nightstand
Hmm.
a pen and an
Hmm.
index card.
Hmm.
And on one side of those card, I write three things that I'm grateful for that happened
Hmm.
yesterday. They had
Hmm.
to have happened yesterday.
Hmm.
And on the other side of that index card, I write down three things that will happen today.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So I do that because that's setting my intention
Hmm.
for the day.
Hmm.
Now, why
Right.
do I call it an active gratitude? Because it's 4:15 in the morning. I don't want to be awake at
Hmm.
4:15 in the morning.
Hmm.
Right. But I am grateful that I have a job,
Hmm.
and I'm grateful that I have
Hmm.
a place to stay. And I get excited about these things,
Hmm.
right? And so at 4:15 in the morning, I force a smile on my
Hmm.
face, and I can feel the energy moving from the soles of
Hmm.
my feet. I
Hmm.
force it, because you have
Hmm.
to force it at 4:15 in the morning.
I
But it's
know. Woo.
active gratitude.
Hmm.
I am participating in this. I am
Hmm.
making a choice. This is
Hmm.
my first choice of the day.
Hmm.
I do it when I feel great. I
Hmm.
do it when I don't feel great.
Hmm.
I do it when I feel optimistic, and I do it when I feel lonely. I do it because it frames my day. And
Hmm.
here's what I know about being happy. Happiness exists when we feel safe.
Hmm. Hmm.
Gratitude reduces the feeling of chaos,
Hmm.
which increases the feeling of safety,
Hmm.
right?
So then
So
our happiness is increased.
there you go. This is
Hmm.
all an equation, right?
Hmm.
And so this is my gift to myself first thing in the morning when I'm getting myself out
Hmm.
of bed. I said, okay, I get jazzed, and all of a sudden I'm starting
Hmm.
to have a great day.
Hmm.
I don't just leave that card in my bedroom on the nightstand. I tuck it in my purse. I take
Ah.
it with me. I get to my
Hmm.
office. I take it out and I pin it to my computer. You know
Hmm.
why? Because something's going to happen during that day that's going to make me feel feared,
Hmm.
or make me feel
Right.
less than, or
Hmm.
make, me feel angry.
Hmm.
And I look at that card. I pull it off. I say, "Ooh, these
Hmm.
are the thoughts that I'm having
Hmm.
today." Remind
Hmm.
myself. And you will say, "Oh, that's so simple. It will never work." our brains, for as complex as they
Mhm.
are very simplistic
Mhm.
machines.
Right.
It will believe anything that you
Mhm.
tell it often
Mhm.
enough,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So that is my gratitude practice. And I give people that because that is how you become the
Mhm.
happiest person that you know.
Mhm.
It's not by what
Mhm.
I thought when I was 18, problems never happening,
Mhm.
challenges never showing
Mhm.
up. Mm-mm.
There's a good
They
book,
show up.
but right.
Right, right. So
Mhm.
you have to train your brain. You
Mhm.
have, oh, I could tell you so many stories. Lose 10 customers, and you
Mhm.
would say, oh, I'm going to go out of business. I'm going to go out of
Mhm.
business. I said, you know what? I know that's going to be replaced with 20. I know
Mhm.
I'm going to get double for
Right.
my trouble,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I just start
Mhm.
telling myself this story, and
Mhm.
I'd move to it. Energy is
Mhm.
so important. I don't care whether you can only wiggle your finger. You wiggle your finger,
Mhm.
you create some positive
Mhm.
movement energy, and
Right.
you get those thoughts
Mhm.
going in your brain.
Mhm.
And I know that the other thoughts are still coming. Oh, we're not going to make it. We're going to
Mhm.
go out of business. And you just start talking to it
Mhm.
and saying, no, I'm grateful for the one customer that
Mhm.
showed up. I'm
Mhm.
grateful that I'm still here, that I showed up. I was
Mhm.
doing a meeting one
Right.
time. My son said my kids are really small. And he said, Mom, no one showed up. He's like 5. No one showed up for your meeting. I said, well, Miles, I can see that. But
Mhm.
I'm hearing you're here and your
Mhm.
sister's here. So would you mind if I practice my pitch on you
Mhm.
guys?
Right.
But we use
Mhm.
everything. You
Mhm.
become grateful for
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
smallest thing, that
Mhm.
you can feel the wind on your face, you can
Mhm.
feel the sun. You become
Right.
grateful, grateful,
Mhm.
grateful to the point where you get giddy.
Mhm.
And that will
Mhm.
reduce the feeling of chaos, which
Right.
is generated by
Mhm.
fear.
Mhm.
And that gratitude energy causes you to be happy. You know what happens when you're happy? Well, your cortisol levels go down.
Mhm.
You can think better. And when your
Right.
cortisol levels go
Mhm.
down, your creativity, because guess what I know is that the answer to whatever question that you have is already in you.
Mhm.
We're just focused on the problem
Right. Right.
instead of the solution.
Mhm.
And you don't have to sit down in a
Mhm.
corner and say, what's the solution? What's the solution? What's the solution? No,
No,
you
it'll
just
come.
create space
Mhm.
through
Right.
gratitude.
Right. And I think the bad thing is we have been conditioned to always look for bad. I tell people I don't watch the news. Now I know what's going on in the world, right? I'm not naive, but I don't. And my mother, God bless her, she would have, one of the cable news networks on 24 hours a day. And it was so interesting because her mood was going down and down and down, and she recognized it. And she calls and she tells me, she set a schedule. I watch the news X to X, and it was very limited. I mean, and she said, and the rest of the time my TV is on the Hallmark channel, which I just found absolutely hilarious. But so she got the news that she needed, but there's really not much that's happier than the Hallmark channel, right? And but it was and her mood shifted. And I love the same concept with what you're saying. When we start the day with that gratitude and that being so grateful that we woke up, right? And other things like that, then everything else just kind of comes from that. But when we start our day with gloom and doom, you were talking about Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore follows us the whole day. And we're just, that cloud is just there the whole time.
And so there's a part of us that believes that the Eeyore, I like that
Mm-hmm.
analogy, and I'll stick with that. The
Mm-hmm.
Eeyore energy protects us. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
ego tells us, is that
Mm-hmm.
if I am hyper
Mm-hmm.
focused on what could go wrong,
Right.
I am
Mm-hmm.
protected from
Right.
what could go
Mm-hmm.
wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you just look in your own life, you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
read any books for this.
Mm-hmm.
You can self-awareness. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about that in the beginning. If you look in your own life, you will
Mm-hmm.
see that whatever you focus on, not the actual
Mm-hmm.
thing, but the energy behind that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we'll use the news, because I stopped watching the
Mm-hmm.
news over 23 years ago
Mm-hmm.
too. And I love newscasters. I think they do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
People need to be informed.
Right.
It wasn't helping me
Mm-hmm.
to focus where I need
Mm-hmm.
to focus to have the
Mm-hmm.
life that I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
have. So, but if you focus on just that negative, what
Mm-hmm.
could go wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you'll realize that you're living a life
Right.
where lots of things uh, tend to be going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
It's a
I'm not saying that
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And the same number of things may be going wrong in
Mhm.
my life. I'm just not so focused
Mhm.
on them. So my
Right.
focus is more on the things that are
Mhm.
going great, right?
Mhm.
And so therefore my cortisol levels and your cortisol levels
Mhm.
could be going down when you
Mhm.
focus on the things that are going great.
Mhm.
And I'm more creative when there's a problem,
Mhm.
that automatically there my energy goes to, oh,
Mhm.
here's a way to do that
Right.
differently, or here's a
Mhm.
way to,
Mhm.
and so because less chaos when you're
Mhm.
in gratitude. That
Mhm.
chaos is not there. You feel safer, and therefore
Mhm.
your brain will do some higher level
Mhm.
things that you would not even believe.
Mhm.
You'll be like, I've been dealing with this situation forever, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden, the answer, the solution
Mhm.
is so simple and right in front of you. Like, why didn't I think of that?
Mhm.
Well, because you were living in that. I love that.
Mhm.
I'm going to probably use it forever now. That Eeyore
We were
energy,
being
where
poor
you were
Eeyore. Mhm.
right. You were
Mhm.
focused on. I'm going to
Mhm.
protect myself by hyper focusing
Mhm.
on what could go wrong.
Mhm.
Instead, think of it this way. I'm going to insulate myself. I want to wrap up in a warm
Mhm.
blanket of
Mhm.
gratitude,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to wrap up there. I'm going to see the world this way,
Mhm.
right? So then when my car door falls off while
Mhm.
I'm driving down the highway, right? Several people pull over
Mhm.
to help me,
Mhm. Right.
right?
I love it. Well, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Dr. Dravon, we're almost out of time, and this has been fascinating, and I think we need to do it again because it is so important for people. I think especially now with what's going on in the world. Like I said, we all know there's bad stuff that is happening in the world, but for the most part, we can't change it. It's over there. It's all these other places. So yeah, we need to focus on being happy, being positive, because it ripples out. And even if all we're doing is making the people in our office, our business, whatever, a little bit happier, then they go home and they don't kick the dog. They say, "Hi, honey," all of those things. But tell people, so I mentioned your book, and which is again called, I had to find it, Freedom is Your Birthright. And it is part of a stepping stone series. So is it the first book and we've got more books to come out?
It's the first book, and I
Okay.
had to tell you, I'm working on the second book. I've been working on it for a while, but I'm going to go
Mhm.
ahead and forgive myself that it's taking so long. The book is about forgiveness,
Mhm.
and it is a wonderful
Mhm.
little book. I like to write books that are under 100 pages
Mhm.
because I
It
want
was
the
a
readers to
very
read
quick
them from
read.
cover to cover.
Yep.
hmm
Yep.
I
You
want you to get
know,
all the
yeah.
jewels.
And so we'll have the link to that in the show notes. And when you have number two done, let us know because then we'll have you back on. But how do people find you and what are the services that you provide?
Right. So you can find me on all social media outlets under my name, Dr. Dravon James, and on my website under the
Hmm.
same name, Dr. Dravon James.
Hmm.
And I do keynote speaking, and I
Hmm.
do right now coaching. I don't do one-on-one coaching anymore, but
Hmm.
I do group coaching
Hmm.
for women specifically
Hmm.
called Leaders in High Heels. And I
Hmm.
just take a quick second to say that it
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you're having to want to be a leader in a business or a
Hmm.
corporation. I definitely do have those type of women,
Hmm.
but you could want to be able wanting to lead yourself into a new situation,
Hmm.
and it's a perfect place for you. I never take more than 12 women in
Hmm.
a group. I'm sorry, our group is never more than 12 weeks. I never take
Okay.
more than 6 women in a group.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
we get to really, really
Hmm.
bond. And I tell people have quantum leaps. You come in, we
Hmm.
define, we go through that self-awareness piece, and you come out with that
Hmm.
goal achieved. So that's the services that I'm offering now in
Hmm.
addition to the keynote speaking.
I love it. I love it. And again, the website is drdravonjames.com. So, it's very easy to find. Well, this has been an absolute delight, and it's funny because it's actually late in the day. It's now dark outside, but it's a fabulous way for me to have wrapped up my day because this has been such a fun conversation. And like I said, we will definitely have you on again because this was fabulous, and more importantly, I think it's important for people to hear this, especially now. So we love to have you back on. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Yes, I do. And since we're talking about gratitude, that was our last subject. I want to say this: find something to be grateful for about you. There's so much power in that. We're accustomed to being grateful for other things, but I want you today, I challenge you today to write down 3 things about you today that you're grateful for that happened because of you today, that you did today. And then wake up tomorrow, you will feel amazing.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having an absolutely delightful discussion with Dr. Dravon James. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.